Hey guys, it's James William from the BlackBerry Business Development team, coming to you from beautiful Richmond Green in Richmond Hill, Ontario. Today we've got a great session for you, a roundtable focused on challenges faced by financial services firms. We've got a great panel of speakers coming from Mobius, Blue Cedar, and Symphony, and they'll be speaking about how they address the use cases most commonly faced by financial services firms. So with that, we've got a lot to cover. Let's dive on in.
In this session, you'll learn about how Mobius, Blue Cedar, and Symphony solve common use cases faced by financial services firms. We have a lot to cover, so let's get going. With us today, I'd like to welcome Sean Winter, VP of Client Success at Mobius, John Aisien, CEO at Blue Cedar, and Craig Butterworth, Global Head of Global Account Management at Symphony. I'm super excited to pick their brains today and share with you their experiences working with our mutual customers in financial services. Welcome, gentlemen. First, I'd like to set the stage. We're well into our COVID lockdown / post-pandemic new normal of working from anywhere. And some clear challenges have emerged. Multiple themes on these challenges. Number one, a workforce that is spread out using different computing tools, but still needing to get the job done. Second, increased security concerns due to the proliferation of remote endpoints and bring your own use cases. And the ultimate requirement, of course, still needing to drive business results, irregardless of the new working circumstances. So let's take a quick look at what IDC projects as key areas for IT investment and how the pandemic will influence business spend when it comes to technology. Two key themes. Number one, the next normal. So we can all agree that post-pandemic, the new workplace is going to be vastly different. Support for remote working is higher, and through our forced experience is here to stay. Technology around video conferencing, collaboration, remote learning and training, and enabling secure connectivity will be key investments. Secondly, building a resilient IT organization. So scaling up cloud computing, task automation, secure delivery of applications are all foundational infrastructure pieces that will drive a flexible and resilient approach towards a challenging and unknown work environment. So with that in mind, let me highlight some key themes for the Security Summit. And we spoke about this earlier with multiple endpoints globally, perimeter porosity, working from home, having remote workers. Number two, security based on a different assumption, right? Zero trust and reducing user interaction to zero touch. 5G. 5G is upon us, right? So what does that mean for devices? Number four, artificial intelligence, machine learning, how does that apply to the solutions that we bring to our customers? And number five, core to the BlackBerry value proposition. How do we continue to enable security through security operations, managed security, etc. So what I'll do is I'll ask our speakers to keep these themes in mind, particularly when we address our roundtable questions. So without further ado, I'll ask Sean the first question here. So Sean, what are the challenges that are faced by financial services customers around security, mobility, and collaboration?
Yeah, thanks, James. We think of, I think, one big challenge, which is your mobile strategy, in the beginning of March is not what it needs to be today. And what that has done is it's led companies to encounter what we call gaps in their strategy. And we see typically three primary buckets of gaps. So number one is around clients. And this has historically been a challenge anyway with tools within the enterprise. But how are we effectively engaging with clients on their preferred mobile channel? Always a challenge, and probably more of a challenge today because a lot of employees, and we work very frequently in the regulated space, so a lot of financial advisors, wealth managers, etc., can't get to their desk phone. They can't get to the tools that were compliant and secure before. Secondarily, it's always been a challenge to have a 360-degree view of all of your client communications, right? That's even more complex now. And finally, companies are at a great risk, especially if their employees are using personal phone numbers in losing those clients. We would never think of letting somebody take their corporate email address with them when they leave. We would never think of letting somebody take their access to a document management system or an IM tool with them when they leave, yet phone numbers historically have been a challenge, especially in the mobile realm, for companies to keep. The second bucket of gaps is specific more towards the actual employees. And we know that due to coverage gaps on certain voice over IP and other networks, sometimes it's hard to get work done where you need to be. And right now, lots of people are at home, and maybe they don't have the connectivity that they need or that they would have had in the office. There's also a ton of device and context switching going on. So whether I need to swap out SIMs or whatnot within my device, that is certainly making employees less productive. And then the notion of logging client communications, again, always a challenge, but now even more of a challenge as employees are home using different and more personal types of tools. And the third gap is compliance. Obviously a big theme for this group here. People are home, they have access to devices, whether it's phones, laptops, etc. We can't just say, don't ever use those for any kind of work. It's just not realistic. We also know that channel-specific solutions add complexity. And finally, there's been a proliferation of voice over IP only solutions, obviously, that have taken off while people are at home, but what happens in the near future when people aren't at home? Right? Maybe I'm back at the office a few days a week. Maybe I'm in between. Maybe I'm visiting a client. We're going to get into this new world where employees aren't necessarily home all the time, but they're also not in the office all the time. So those solutions can present some pretty serious compliance gaps.
Excellent. Thank you, Sean. So we'll turn it over to John now. What are the challenges faced by financial services customers around security, mobility, and collaboration?
Thanks so much, James. I'll highlight 3 key challenges. First, financial services firms' end users are increasingly Generation Y end users. The typical customer or employee of a financial services firm is increasingly born in the mid-90s and beyond, and by default, every element in the way that they interact with data is mobile first. It's self-service oriented. It's convenience driven. And so the way in which they access corporate data in the enterprise context as financial services employees and financial services customers has to evolve to meet the requirements of the typical Generation Y end user. The second challenge I'll highlight, as already described by you, James, is internal security policies are becoming even more stringent, even as these Generation Y end users crash the typical financial services firm. External regulations are becoming even more stringent. So you have this natural tension between the convenience and ergonomic requirement of the typical Generation Y end user and the increasing stringence of internal security policies and external regulation. The third challenge I'll describe is mobile as a deployment form factor is frankly just different from a typical financial services deployment form factor, be that a client server, a client device, a laptop, a server, a desktop, even a cloud computing deployment unit. All of those deployment units are different from that which mobile requires. Mobile essentially necessitates less control. Even a financial services firm cannot define or control when Apple releases the new version of iOS or Google releases the new version of the Android open source platform. So the 3 key challenges I'll highlight are the increasing requirements and different requirements of the typical end user in a financial services firm, the increasing stringence of internal controls and external regulations, and yet the increasing lack of control that financial services firms have around mobile endpoints as compared to typical endpoints. Back to you, James.
Fantastic. Appreciate that, John. So Craig, we'll turn it over to you. What are some of the challenges faced by financial services customers around security, mobility, and collaboration?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, Symphony's customers and indeed also our investors are some of the world's top financial institutions. And due to the very nature of their business, they require the utmost security to communicate both internally, but also externally with their customers and their broader business ecosystem. But it's not just about the security. Financial services is, of course, a highly regulated industry where compliance is equally a top priority. It's not something that's negotiable, let's just say. And these two factors have really been at the core of Symphony's DNA right from the start of the firm being born nearly 6 years ago. But it was when COVID-19 really started to ramp in March that this really took on new importance. So, to be honest, we were kind of inundated actually with customers coming to us saying, "Help! Now more than ever, we need a solution which helps keep our workforce secure and compliant, but at the same time enables them to be connected and productive, and not just for a few days, not even just for a few months, maybe even it could be, hopefully not, but it could be a year or two, right?" And it's worth highlighting as well, that's a challenge which doesn't just apply to the C-suite, top-down of an organisation. It applies just as much to the bottom-up, the interns and the graduates joining, and everything else in between. So in response to that, I guess, request, that need from our customers in the industry, we launched our business continuity initiative, enabling our existing customers to roll out Symphony to all of their internal users, unlimited number of licenses, no additional cost. And I think the feedback we got from a lot of our customers was at a time when they were having to risk accept a number of pretty imperfect solutions, which they really had no choice but to go with, simply to enable business to continue in some vaguely normal way. It was great that with Symphony, they had something they didn't need to risk accept. They could do the job properly, and they could really be on the front foot with their regulators.
Fantastic. Thank you, Craig. So let's keep that thought going. I'll stick with you, Craig. Let's go to our next questions, and let's talk a little bit about how does our joint solution address that particular challenge, and discuss maybe a specific use case that we address.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess the first thing to say is that the starting point with Symphony is that it is the most secure and compliant collaboration platform out there, and it's also purpose-built for the specific requirements of financial services. And so some of those, the specific elements that underpin that are true end-to-end encryption, not just in motion and at rest, customer managed keys, so no one can tap into content or media or data apart from the end customers themselves. Our verified trusted global directory made up of over 500,000 of our users within the financial services industry, the biggest industry directory that there is within financial services. And that's increasingly of value at a time when people realize just how much data provenance matters. And then there are things like information barriers, layered security controls, compliance controls, and a full audit trail of activity. I could go on, but you get the idea. And that's great, but in a world where people expect and indeed need device interoperability, even in a pre-COVID world, but just as much in a post-COVID world, and in a world where people are blending and meshing together corporate devices with bring your own devices, our partnership with BlackBerry really enables our customers to seamlessly switch between that desktop and mobile environment, all without compromising security, compliance, or workflow efficiency. So in short, it's a real pleasure to be working with BlackBerry in this important area, and I think our customers really appreciate our partnership as well.
Fantastic. Appreciate that insight, Craig. So we'll also leverage John's insight on this front as well. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how our joint solution addresses the challenges that you raised, and maybe you can address a specific use case that we solved there.
Yeah, absolutely, James. It will be my pleasure. So Blue Cedar really does one important thing we think very well. We collaborate with BlackBerry to provide financial services customers with essentially an easy button for securely deploying corporate mobile apps. So mobile software compiled for the popular mobile operating systems need to be deployed at scale even to end users of all types. And we orchestrate and automate all the tasks between those mobile apps being compiled by the app developer and those mobile apps being deployed to end user devices to generate business value. Of course, a key step in that workflow is enabling those apps to be managed by the BlackBerry Dynamics platform. And we essentially automate that step as part of our end-to-end workflow. In terms of examples, there's just so many exciting examples across financial services that one could highlight. One that immediately springs to mind post-pandemic is a global financial services firm headquartered in Europe, but with global scope and global operations, had an urgent need to automate the process of integrating a decision support mobile app. Well, I should call it a mobile app pair, one for iOS and one for Android, within the BlackBerry Dynamics container for use by high-value employees. I mean, members of the supervisory board, members of operating committees, things of that ilk. And this app essentially provides real-time access to sensitive decision support data that runs within this financial services firm's data warehouse. And we're able to take the mobile apps in question and automate the end-to-end steps necessary to deploy those mobile apps through the BlackBerry UEM catalog, including the automation of the integration of the BlackBerry Dynamics SDKs into those apps, delivering business value to 1,000 high-value end users who can now access decision support data at the click of a button or automated authentication via Face ID via their respective mobile apps. So we're pretty proud of that collaboration with BlackBerry to solve a high-value, high-urgency issue for a global financial services firm. Back to you, James.
Fantastic. Appreciate that, John. Appreciate that insight, and looking forward to replicating it with other customers as well. So we'll pivot over to Sean and ask you the same question, right? So how does our joint solution address the challenges that you raised, and maybe address one of the specific use cases that come about from these solutions?
Yeah, absolutely, James. So BlackBerry and Movius together provide a compliant, reliable mobile communication service from anywhere. So it's not dependent on getting to a specific device. It's purely software based. And we've seen clients that have really just done wonderful things as they've sort of embraced this new normal with the product. It's reliable. It works on any device, any carrier, anywhere in the world. So these are real GSM-enabled numbers. This is not a voice over IP type of thing. It also provides for gap-free compliance. So if I'm in my BlackBerry UEM and I'm used to checking my email or my messenger, my calendar, the phone icon is right there. And in one click, I can make calls and it's automatically being recorded. I don't need to swap out a SIM. I don't need to select a specific app. I don't need to grab a different handset. It's all right there. Central storage, central surveillance, no user action to record. So it's compliant really out of the gate. And finally, one use case I did want to bring up is just our notion of rapid rollout. As you know, we've had many very large financial customers that needed to make some drastic changes in mid-March, as have all of us. And we were able to deploy in one of our largest financial services customers thousands of numbers per day over several weeks, and literally up and running in minutes. Again, this is a pure SaaS software-based solution. There's no hardware, there's no installation, there's nothing that we need to do. We can turn it on and go. There are no handsets to mail, there are no SIMs to mail, there are no messy carrier contracts. So it's all there out of the gate. And I have a long history in enterprise software, especially in financial services, and to see something turn on and adopted in a matter of hours was something else. And BlackBerry's proven to be a great partner to us in that regard.
Fantastic. Appreciate that, Sean. I think the speed and scalability is one of the themes that I addressed there. So I think keeping with that, being able to bring that to customers is certainly a huge advantage. So let's jump into our summary here real quick. And I wanted to say thanks for watching our video. We hope you grabbed valuable insight into how to leverage solutions that address regulatory compliance around secure communications, enabling security for key applications in a no-code manner, and how to enable your financial services workforce to connect, collaborate, and meet in real time. We've included a link to the BlackBerry Marketplace if you want more information about our other partner solutions. And as well, we've got direct links to our partners from Movius, Blue Cedar, and Symphony. Thanks for spending time with our panel, and be sure to check out our other video presentations. Lots of informative content from our subject matter experts. Take care and stay safe. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out our video. We hope you gained valuable insight into multiple topics like enabling regulatory compliance for secure communications, enabling security for key applications in a no-code manner, and enabling your workforce to connect, collaborate, and meet in real time. I want to say thanks to our esteemed panel, And make sure you check out all the content from our security summit. With that, I want to say stay safe, take care, and really enjoyed streaming this video for you. Thanks.